Hi, this is Andrew Scivally, co-founder and CEO of eLearning Brothers. We help companies build and deliver engaging learning. On today's show, we're going to talk about why your idea of e-learning might be dead wrong. We're also going to talk about why learning is a great marketing tool and how it can add value to your employee, but also to your customers. And then we're going to talk about divorcing a partner in business, a family partner, and how we can actually divorce them and still remain friends.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron, he's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Now, over to Dov Baron.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Hey, would you do me a favor? Send me a note, DM me on one of the 4 big social media outlets, and let us know what platform you listen to us on. We want to know if you're listening through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or whatever platform you're listening through. We want to know. Please tell us. And tell us one of your favorite episodes. And I'm going to pick a winner. I'm going to offer a prize valued at $1,500 to one of you who participates. So send me a message. Let us know where you're listening to and what's your favorite episode. I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Leadership and Loyalty. And let me ask you, what do you need to do to up-level your leadership? Well, at a simple level, the answer is obviously to continue learning. However, you want to be able to learn exactly what you need to learn at the pace you need to learn it. And what's more is you likely want to do that at scale, meaning you want your teams to be able to learn and you don't want to just have to do it one by one. So what's the most effective way to learn and have your people learn at scale? Well, stay tuned because that's where we're going on today's show. I'm your host, Dov Baron. I'm here to assist you tapping into the one thing in your business that changes everything by transforming meaning into action. Curious to know more? Simply go to dovbaron.com. This episode of Leadership and Loyalty is brought to you in part by our other podcast, Curiosity Bites. Curiosity Bites, look for it on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's your answer to the question, how can we bring people together who completely disagree? This is exactly what your heart, your mind, your soul has been craving. It's a chance to sit in on some real and often intense conversations with some of the world's most interesting people. We're talking about astronauts, neuroscientists, neurosurgeons, philosophers, holy people, quantum physicists, skeptics, multi-Grammy award-winning entertainers, and even some folks you might think you would completely disagree with, who you're going to find truly fascinating. Simply go to dovbaron.com and find out how you can sign up for and sink your teeth into the delicious Curiosity Bites. We always need your help in staying relevant, so please get over to wherever it is that you do listen to us, and do us a favor, rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and share it with everybody you know. If you are a regular listener, big thank you to you for making us the #1 podcast globally for Fortune 500 listeners. And we are deeply grateful and honored to be cited by Inc.com as the #1 podcast to make you a better leader. All right, let's strip it down and dive right in. Any leader who has even the vaguest idea of what leading actually means knows that we must keep learning. You can't sit on your laurels. And we must offer our people opportunities to learn if we want to keep them engaged. Now, while many companies struggled just to keep their heads above water during the 2020 pandemic, there were a few categories of organizations that flourished, not least of all the e-learning platforms, which brings us to the relevance to you as a leader. Was e-learning a pandemic thing, or has it become a shift in culture that is now critical for the future of your organization and of business? On top of that, there's the question of engagement. How do you make sure that what your people are learning actually has them engaged enough to observe what they're learning? Well, let's find out together, because our guest today is Andrew Scivally. He is the co-founder and CEO of a company named eLearning Brothers. Andrew's leadership and future thinking has guided the company from being an American mythological basement startup to an industry-leading learning technology company. What's fascinating is that he has 20 years of experience in the learning technology space, as well as leading learning and development teams for financial institutions such as JP Morgan Chase and Zions Bank. He holds a master's degree in computer education and cognitive systems. What's more is eLearning Brothers has established an industry-leading brand that has been featured in Inc. 5000 for 6 consecutive years. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and help me to welcome the co-founder and CEO of eLearning Brothers, husband of a woman who deserves a medal. He might be a saint because they have 9 children, Mr. Andrew Scivally.
Thanks a lot.
Welcome, Andrew. It's good to have you with us.
Hey, thank you.
So in the context of leadership, and particularly in leadership development, I find in my work of working with leaders across the board is that oftentimes people are asking the wrong questions and therefore getting the wrong answers. You can't get the right answer from a wrong question. So in the context of leadership development, what do you believe is the question we should be looking for answers to, but we're really not?
Well, I think the biggest question that we deal with is really around what do your employees and customers need to know? What do they need to understand to do a better job? And how do you engage them? And how do you actually help them learn that? What we're seeing right now is it's all about upskilling and reskilling.
Mm-hmm.
So the world is changing at a pace that's never happened before.
Of course.
It's not just social stuff, but we're talking about, technology and jobs and just everything you need to know. And so what we're looking at right now is how do you upskill an employee to go from what they know now to what they need to know for the job in the future? And if it's going to be a different job, how do you reskill them, right? How do you train them into a new area? And so that's really what we're seeing right now and what we're hearing.
Yeah, because we're very aware that there was power was in the hands of the talent before. And when the pandemic hit, a lot of employers thought, okay, now at least the good thing is we'll have the power because people are afraid that they're not going to have jobs and we're going to have the power. We're going to be able to offer jobs and, it's not going to be a problem. And what they discovered is it's absolutely the opposite, that the talent has all the power. They still get to say, I'm not working here and I need certain things. And that desire to learn, particularly in millennials who are today, let's face it, 41 years old at the eldest. So they have a high desire for learning. They want mastery, they want growth. So I think your question about upskilling and reskilling is vitally important for us to be asking. Now, when we come to that, I want to sort of take a little sidebar. We can come back, but I want to take a little sidebar because even in your bio that I was saying at the beginning there, what's fascinating is if you've got 20 years of experience in the learning technology space, that's a little like saying you were into motorcycle racing during the horse and buggy period. Because that was way before most people were even considering e-learning. Tell us a little bit about how the early stages of that, because that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I got into the online learning industry in basically 99, 2000, right in that time frame. And it's been around for quite a while. However, mass adoption did take some time. So when I got started, it was all on the multimedia side, right? So creating content that could then be consumed as training videos and things like that.
Right.
Of course, this was before we could actually stream video and training on the internet. There was a lot of CD-ROM based type content.
Yes. Okay. I forgot about that. Yeah,
Right?
your CD-ROM, put your CD-ROM in and we'll learn together.
Yes. Or there's VCR training too. So my education coming out of a 4-year degree was broadcasting. So it was editing on tape, right? On beta tape or whatever, it was Betamax. And but then when online learning really started to take off was as the internet hit big and video streaming became available.
Yeah.
that was really what started changing things, right? Where you could actually take this content, a lot of it was flash content and all that, and you could put it out and make it easily accessible. Now, in the early days, though, it was really like online learning was this, this thing that, look, hey, that's cute. Good job. I'm glad you're messing with a little thing over here. Never going to work. It's all about classroom training, the trainers. That's where it has to be. We got to bring everyone in and all that. However, as we know now, it's not a battle anymore between classroom and online. It's about learning.
Right.
It's just learning. There are lots and lots of different ways to learn now. Just like there are lots of different ways to watch content, right? It's not just on a TV antenna anymore, right? It's all sorts of different ways to consume content. Same thing with e-learning, or I'm just going to call it digital learning.
Yes.
Right. There's lots of ways to learn. So it took many years to really gain some good adoption. And part of that is on the businesses for not considering it, but part of it is on us as an industry. We built a lot of crappy content and we didn't do ourselves a favor, right, Dov? I mean, it's like build this piece of junk course that people hate and then try to convince them that it's, good technology. So we had to learn too.
Yeah. So that in itself is interesting because it, the desire for online learning, which, digital learning obviously went up in the pandemic. And the wonderful thing about, not that the pandemic was wonderful, but the wonderful thing about it was that many companies who thought they could never go remote went remote in 21 days. I mean, they went remote, they went out of business. It was that. And everybody thinks they can't do something until they're really forced into it. And that happens. So people changed. Now, they oftentimes didn't think that they had the technology or whatever, the systems to do it. And of course, lots of things collapsed in the process. But business does evolve. That's the nature of business. It's constantly evolving. And, you talked about CD-ROMs and VCRs and all these different ways of different kinds of players, that we had. Talk to us a little bit about the evolution of learning technology and how eLearning Brothers have actually evolved with it. And where did you stumble? Because I want people to sort of get a grasp of this map, because it's easy to go, oh my God, eLearning Brothers, they're huge. Okay, yep. But it's never a straight line.
Yeah. I like to think of the learning industry and compare it to, let's say, the website industry, right? So let's say 20 years ago, 15 years ago, if you wanted to build a website for your business, you had to know how to code, right? You need to know HTML or something like that. Maybe CSS or some styling or something. But now if you want to build a website, it's easy, right? You go to Squarespace or Wix or whatever it is, right? And you pick from a pretty template, you say, I want that one, and e-commerce is set up and all this tracking with SEO and all this stuff.
Right.
Well, learning technology kind of followed a similar path. It was difficult in the beginning. And in the beginning, you wanted to build, obviously we want to build engaging content, right? We don't want to ever be that person where someone's saying like, that course was terrible, right? I'm like, hey, guess what? I built that. No one wants to be proud, person, right? Like, look at me, I built that. So what happened though in the beginning is in the learning space, it wasn't a learning technology space. It was an education space.
Right.
You had educators coming out of school, college, whatever it was, going into this and saying, I want to teach online.
Right.
The very first tools were all PowerPoint based. It was basically just put a PowerPoint online and put some navigation buttons on it and a table of content, like a menu navigation.
Right.
And we didn't do ourselves any favors as an industry. It just allowed us to take terrible PowerPoints, turn them into terrible online courses that people can click next on.
Yeah.
Right. And it evolved from there. And then And then finally, technology started coming in, and multimedia developers and graphic designers and artists and all this. And so you have this, now you have this blend of the technology world in here now, and helping us really create engaging or create content quickly, but also, deliver that in a wonderful way. But you still have the educators and the artists that are trying to build amazing content that's beautiful and write it in a way that's engaging. So now you see this blend, and we're a mature industry that that rivals all the other types of content industries out there. But it wasn't always that way.
But really, because it seems like it was fumbling with code to actually put something up. Teachers who are not very engaging, and that should be clear. And I've been a teacher for 36 years. Teachers who are not very engaging. So I'm calling out my own industry. Offline, let alone online. So, one-dimensional teachers. So there was a lot of that was really flat. And I think even today, Andrew, I think that today so many people don't know how really quite sophisticated it's gotten and how engaging it's gotten. Because even for me, who's been around for a long time, when somebody says, "Oh yeah, you can learn it online," I'm like, oh, no, right? Because I like personal, I like the interaction of the human connection, and that still is my favorite. I won't say that away. But then when I go and look at the content with a really great course, it's like, oh my God, this is so cool, because it's engaging. As you said, there's an art there. So I feel like this has become the industry has kind of become it's like a construction site building a beautiful building. Like, you've got your carpenters, and you've got your painters, and you've got your plumbers, and you've got all the marble experts, and you've got everybody comes together, and it's all a big schmazuzzle until it comes together, and then it's magnificent. And I think in many ways, many of the people who are listening today may be thinking of it in a way that it was even 5 years ago.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I think again, that's why I go back to think of it as digital learning, or if you want to just call it learning now, right? Because even people listening right now to this podcast, they're learning.
Yes.
It's digital, right?
Yep.
And this can be blended into all sorts of different pathways of learning that a company might string together. And so there's so many different ways to consume content now and to engage with it. It doesn't have to be the old school way, like you mentioned, like the old school courses where you just click next.
No.
Maybe there's a time and place for that. But now it's so much more robust. And for people to learn online, we do everything online. So why would we ever say that people can only learn sitting in a classroom with a trainer? I mean, that's one method, and it can be very effective.
Of course.
But it's just one of many now.
Yeah. So let's, I guess the important place for us to go is, what is the difference in a context of need, pre and post pandemic, or is there a difference? Because the pandemic, as we talked about before, really made it obvious that, okay, we don't have another option. This is what we got to do, right? You can't get in the room. So, all right. Now we can get in the room. And it's one of the things that actually concerns me is a lot of people are rushing back to quote unquote normal. And first of all, I think normals are always a mess, and anything that requires going back doesn't work, because that's not how evolution of anything, industries or anything else, works. We move forward. So the desire to go back is a bit of a problem to normal. But that still is the nature of humans, in that, I want the comfort of what was familiar. So, is there a difference in the training needs pre versus post pandemic?
Yes. Now, there will be companies that go back to normal.
Yeah.
Whether their normal was good or bad, I don't know. But then there will be companies that will take the good and get rid of the bad things from the past and just take some of the new stuff and some of the old stuff and put it together and be amazing.
Yeah.
But the need now is this. There are a lot of companies that aren't going back to how they used to be, right? They're going to hybrid approaches where you're more flexible where people work. And even for us at eLearning Brothers, we acquired a lot of companies during this pandemic, and these companies that we acquired, they no longer have offices, right? They're all working from home. And we never had, over 50% of our employees working remotely before. We had some.
Right.
But now we're in an environment like many companies where you might not be able to go to an office because it doesn't exist anymore, or your employees don't want it. They just want to be home. You as a company might like it. And so there's this hybrid approach now. So I think it's impossible to go back to just strictly classroom training. Too expensive to fly everyone around just to do that. It doesn't make sense. It's not effective. It's hard to update. I mean, there's just all these things that are hard about it. So I think companies will pick and choose exactly when they need to do that. But now it's like, look, you need to onboard employees remotely. You need to train them in new skills remotely. You need to launch products remotely, launch new software updates, and you need to train employees and customers remotely.
So talk to us about training customers, because I think that's important for our listener. Like, we all get that we got to train our people, but when you talk about e-learning in the context of train our customers, talk to us a little bit about that, because I think that's relevant.
Yeah, so there are a lot of times, like you said, we think of training for just our employees, but there are many times where we do product training, for example, for our customers. We have to train them on why they would use our products, how to use them, why they're going to love them, and all that. And so doing that, though, your training needs to look and almost feel like the quality of marketing, right? You spend a ton of money on marketing to make these really amazing things to attract customers. When you're teaching them about your products, it needs to have that feel. It needs to be at that level. And that's a lot of what we've seen I would say recently, but over the past, handful of years, marketing teams and learning teams working more together using some of the same collateral and the same look and feel and the same branding and all that, and some of the same skills, like the design skills, to put that out there. And
that's very interesting, because you've just made something very clear that I think is unclear for most people. Is they go, well, this is marketing. We leave that to marketing. No, it's not marketing. It's marketing and learning together, and that you have to put them together. I mean, for instance, when it comes to handymen, I'm not that guy. I don't do anything. I don't do handyman stuff at all. I don't even change the light bulbs. My wife does that. However, when my wife buys something that comes in a box that she's going to undo and put together, it doesn't come with a guide. It doesn't come with a little booklet that you try to follow like some IKEA torture book. What she does is she immediately goes to YouTube, looks up the brand, looks up, the unboxing and how to put it together, and she watches that. And you can see that sometimes people are doing that. That's fine. But very often the good companies, like really higher end companies, put together these beautiful instructional videos. And they even have, if you have challenges with this, it's probably that. And they walk you through this entire thing, and it's beautifully done. It's a marketing video, but it's disguised as an instructional video. And what you just did there was you help people to, I think, leaders to grasp, how can we create e-learning for our customers that is a marketing catapult, really?
Yeah. Well, Dov, there's a few things there.
Yeah.
So let's think about, if you think about some big technology CRMs right now, Salesforce and HubSpot, right?
Yep.
So what do they do, right? So HubSpot, for example, which is a platform we use to manage our sales and marketing and all that.
Yep.
They're really big on education. they understand, and we as a world understand now, if you educate people and make them better, it builds a loyalty to your brand.
Yeah.
So they educate you on how to be a better marketing person, how to get better leads, how to qualify those, how do you actually, how many times should you reach out to people? How do you build good drip campaigns? All this stuff, right? They're not mentioning buy me, buy me, buy me, buy me. They're saying, let me help you be better at your job and your profession. And as you do that, you win this affinity from your customers. And it's all digital learning, right? You're teaching them through certification programs, webinars, these online user events. And as you do that, of course, they're sprinkling in their messaging and things like that. And you come out of that and you're like, oh my goodness, thank you, fill in the blank brand. Thank you for what you did for me. Now tell me about your product. I think I might like it. So it's all about education. Salesforce, right? I mean, they have this huge Dreamforce thing that they launch, or that they do every year. They're just teaching people to be better at marketing. And by the way, you could use our platform, or better at sales, by the way, you could use our platform to do that. It's all about education now, and that hook. Gone are the days of just hardcore marketing, just, buy this, buy now, do it in 10 seconds or it's gone. It's about teaching people to be better at what they do.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there, because, this is, I think, is a piece that most of us don't understand. That e-learning is not, here's a course, go learn something. That e-learning is much broader than that. Of course, it is that, but it's more than that. And it's a way to add value to your customer that makes your customer appreciate your organization, even if it doesn't directly seem to benefit the organization. Of course it does, but it doesn't seem to be that way. And it's not sneaky. It's, listen, we're a CRM, we do this. And if you've got more sales, you've got more customers. And if you've got more customers, you need a better CRM. We're a CRM company. That's great. But you don't have to use us. We just want to make sure that you can get better leads. Like, immediately you go, okay, there's no agenda here. There is, but it's not punching you in the nose with it. And it's really, I mean, that is a beautiful demonstration. Thank you for that, by the way, because that is a beautiful demonstration of us getting a bigger, broader understanding of what e-learning is, of what digital learning is, as a vehicle rather than as a, just learning because I need you to learn how to write this or do that, or use this. So that's really great insight.
So let's think of a recent massive transaction that happened in the last couple of years, right? LinkedIn purchased a company called lynda.com.
Yep.
Became LinkedIn Learning.
Yep.
Now, when you think of LinkedIn, right, you're going there and you're connecting with business leaders or your peers or whatever it might be. A lot of people are doing marketing through there.
Yep.
But they understood that, look, everyone needs to do learning, and your company can initiate it, or you might have to initiate it yourself to be a better professional and all that. So you see these massive companies coming together with these learning companies. And now you have LinkedIn Learning, which just has, thousands and thousands of videos that are from, various experts in their field teaching you new skills, and they have some project files and things like that. But it's inside of really, their marketing and sales social platform.
Yep.
And it's just side by side. And so, nowadays you mentioned it earlier, employees have lots of choices now. Employees have all the power. Employment rates are super low, at least in our state of Utah. It's incredibly hard to find people.
Yeah.
So many jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And money's great, benefits are great, but time and time again, studies show that employees want to feel connected to their job and feel like they're doing something that has a meaning behind it.
Absolutely.
And they want to learn. They want to get better and progress in their job. So if you're not helping them learn, I don't care if it's classroom, online, podcast, video, VR, games, whatever, doesn't matter. Just help them learn. And, using some type of online format, it's pretty obvious now after 20 years, that content can work, and it can work as long as you give it some thought.
Yeah, and to sort of finish up on the first half of the show here, that's a really important piece is, as was demonstrated by Tony Hsieh with Zappos, is provide things that don't directly relate to the company, and they being the employees will value the company more. So, he offered, there were things like flower arranging courses, right? Yeah. That they offered inside. I mean, it was an in-house training, but it was there because it's like, you have a life beyond work and we want to help you be happy. And so, because their whole philosophy was about happiness. And as a result, why the hell would I leave here? Like, these people take care of me. Where else am I going to go and learn flower arranging? I love doing flower arranging, and I love working here because all these people are really cool. And I get to hang out with Susie, who's really into basket weaving, whatever it is. That, like, I want people to grasp that what you're doing in e-learning is so much more than what we've perceived it as. I think we've held it in a very small box, and it's way bigger than that. We got to finish part one here, and we're going to come back for part two of this discussion. Before we do, Andrew, I would love for you to tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and about all of your resources. And I want to come back into part two, and I want to talk about how the business went from being this basement, in your basement, mythical American idea to becoming this multi-million-dollar enterprise that is really making a massive difference. So please tell everybody where they can find out more about you and the resources.
Yeah, elearningbrothers.com. I mean, that's our main website. And I'm really active on LinkedIn. So you can find me out there, Andrew Scivally. And connect with me, connect on LinkedIn. I love to use the platform and talk to people.
All right, excellent. And we will be back in one click with our guest, Andrew Scivally of eLearning Brothers. And till then, stay curious, my friends, stay curious. We'll see you in one click.